Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Greg's Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video for today, Tuesday, May 21st. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. We'll be going over a recap of yesterday's picks, see on how they turned out. After that, we'll get moved over to RotoWire, talk about the weather report for today. That's going to be any game that does have at least a double-digit chance of rain for tonight's slate overall. Then after that, we'll get moved over to FanDuel, talk about my core picks. It's going to be based on a combination of past performance versus their respective opponent, as well as some recent history. And that is going to be one pitcher, four hitters. And then after that, we'll go over to my cheat sheet and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for tonight's slate overall. That cheat sheet is 100% free and it is up on the Sports Affiliation website, so definitely be sure to check it out over there as you're building out your lineups for tonight's slate overall. But without further ado, we'll get started with a recap of yesterday's picks. Yesterday, forewarning, was very bad for us. So we had three guys with goose eggs and then one guy that had 3 points, and then we had one hit yesterday. So not too great overall. At pitcher, we had Framber Valdez, $9,500. Unfortunately, got to 0 points exactly yesterday. So he was a mess. He pitched 5 innings, gave up 10 hits, 8 earned runs, 3 strikeouts. So he kind of just fell apart in the 5th inning. He gave up 7 runs during that inning. Prior to that point, he pitched 4 innings, only gave up 1 run. If he would have kind of maintained that pace over the next 2 innings, would have been a good performance for him overall. Kind of unraveled in the 5th, like I said, so just kind of unfortunate there. And that's kind of the risk with pitchers on any given slate. They can kind of unravel and have a bad inning on any given start. And then at first base, we went with John Singleton, $2,600. He ended up getting 0 points yesterday. He was a mess. He went 0 for 4. Prior to yesterday, he was 2 for 2 with 2 home runs versus Reed Detmers in the past. At second base, we went with his teammate Jose Altuve, $3,700. He did end up hitting a home run yesterday, having like 3 RBIs. So he got 25.7 points. He was a hit yesterday. I think the 4th overall second baseman on yesterday's slate, but there was some really good second baseman performance yesterday. And then at third base, we went with Nolan Arenado at $2,900. 2 for 2 versus Dean Kramer in the past. Unfortunately, did not end up working out yesterday, so he was 0 for 4 with 0 points, so that was just another unfortunate day. And then last but not least, Giancarlo Stanton, who'd been doing pretty well as of late. Only 1 for 4 yesterday, so he got to 3 points at $3,500. That's just not going to cut it, so he was a miss as well. So unfortunately, it was a bad day for us overall. There was not much you can do to right this ship. Even, if you went down to our pay down option at pitcher and Reese Olson, unfortunately, he got hurt. So it was not the greatest day just overall. But that's kind of the best thing with DFS is you get to start over a brand new, fresh slate every single day. So we're going to get moved over to RotoWire and talk about the weather report for tonight's slate overall. So in terms of the games that we do have, it's only an 8-game main slate. There are like all these games that do start before like 7:05 Eastern time, 6:05 Central time. So those ones are not actually on the main slate, but in terms of the ones that we do have, it's going to be an 8-game main slate. And the ones that we're going to be looking at in terms of weather, right now we have Kansas City and Detroit. Down in Kansas City, 26% chance of rain there. And then over in Chicago, it's down to a 5% chance of rain right now. When I was looking earlier, it was double digits, so we'll keep an eye on that one as the day moves along. But those are the only 2 that really had any weather concerns starting off the day. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to FanDuel and talk about my core picks over there. So once again, it is going to be one pitcher, 4 hitters. It's going to be based on a combination of past performance versus their respective opponent, as well as some recent success. And when we start off today, we're going to start off with Garrett Crochet at the pitcher position. And can't really write as much on the past success versus the Toronto Blue Jays, but the Blue Jays have not been hitting well whatsoever. Garrett Crochet has been pitching pretty well his past 4 starts in terms of DFS and fantasy points, so definitely do like that upside today. He's averaging just over 33 fantasy points per game on the season. And when you look at him versus like Toronto, it's like 1 or 2 players that he's got history versus in the past. I think it's like Kevin Kiermaier and Justin Turner, I think, are the 2 that he does. But if you look at what he's done lately, the past 3 starts have all been 39 points or more. So definitely like that upside. Obviously, he does have the high-end strikeout upside on any given slate. He's got 4 wins on the season, and the ERA is at 4.18. So the ERA could be a little bit better, but obviously there was a couple big starts where he gave up some runs there, so that didn't help it overall, but definitely do like his upside that he could have once again tonight, especially against this Toronto team that has not been hitting much whatsoever on offense. Then at catcher, we're going to go with Salvador Perez. He's $3,400 right now. He is doing really well this season. So it's a 341 batting average, 9 home runs, 38 RBIs. He's averaging just under 11.5 fantasy points per game at $3,400. In his career versus Casey Mize, the expected starting pitcher tonight for the Detroit Tigers, he is 9 for 21 with 1 home run. So some really good history there. He's on a modest 6-game hitting streak right now. 3 of those games have been multi-hit games, including 1 home run, which did happen yesterday. So like the upside of Salvador Perez quite a bit at this point in time. There's some pretty good first base catcher options out there today, whether it's him, Freddie Freeman, Yainer Diaz. Those are the ones that are in my cheat sheet. I like all three of them quite a bit, kind of depending on how you're building out your lineup overall. But with that being said, we're going to keep moving down. We're going to get to Alex Bregman at third base, $2,900. Was not a guy that we were getting to for the Houston stack yesterday, but looks a little bit better for the Houston stack today. And I believe he is 6 for 10 with 1 home run in his career versus Griffin Canning. So some pretty good history there in the past. He's up to that 220 average now at this point in time. Was a really rough start for him to start off the year. 4 home runs, 19 RBIs, averaging just under 8 fantasy points per game at $2,900. He has at least one hit in 9 out of his last 12 games. 4 of them have been multi-hit games, and 3 of his 4 home runs this season have come during that time span as well. So like the upside, kind of what he's been doing as of late. So not a really super expensive player at $2,900. Going against Griffin Canning could be good, could be bad, but I definitely do like the history and the upside there if he does ultimately end up paying off. And then we're going to get down to shortstop with Gunnar Henderson. Not a guy that has a long list of history versus Lance Lynn because he has no history versus Lance Lynn in the past, but Lance Lynn is a pretty hittable pitcher. He's a guy that's predominantly fastball pitcher, should favor a young hitter like Gunnar Henderson quite a bit. And Gunnar Henderson, the past 4 games, has been the hottest hitter in all baseball, so he's on a modest 4-game hitting streak. Yeah, 2 of those games have been multi-hit games, and he's homered in 4 straight games. So I just don't really want to miss out on that upside tonight overall. It's a 271 batting average, 16 home runs, which is either tied for first or first in all of baseball now at this point in time, 34 RBIs, and then he's averaging just under 15 fantasy points per game, up to $4,400 at this point in time, which is understandable since he has homered in those 4 straight games. But definitely a really strong season for Gunnar Henderson and this Orioles team overall, and they are a team that looks like a pretty good stack overall tonight. And then speaking of that Orioles team, we got Jorge Mateo as teammate, $2,500. So with this pick, I wanted to pick somebody that was cheaper, that had some decent history in the past, had been doing all right as of late. And Jorge Mateo kind of fit the bill. You can play him at shortstop, second base, or outfield. Obviously, if you're playing Gunnar Henderson at shortstop, probably not going to play him there. So most likely we're playing him at second base or outfield. Obviously, you could throw him in the utility spot as well. But at $2,500, 250 batting average, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs. Obviously, a guy that can steal base here and there as well. And he is averaging just under 7.5 fantasy points per game. He's been doing pretty decent as of late. He's got at least 1 hit in 4 out of his last 5 games. One of those games was a multi-hit game, and then in his career versus Lance Lynn, 2 for 4 with 1 home run, so some decent history there as well. Kind of betting on some of that upside tonight. We don't need him to do too much. If he gets a multi-hit game, if he steals a base, he's really going to pay off at this $2,500 just in general. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do currently have listed here, you have $11,800 remaining, just under $3,000 per player. So I'm going to have to get a little bit creative today. Not as many cheap values that stand out right away, but maybe as we get some of these starting lineups, there's a guy that sneaks in there, and then we can kind of pay down from there, pay up at a couple other spots, or, maybe looking at a little bit more balanced approach overall on tonight's slate. Some pretty good history there in the past. If you're looking for any of that, be sure to check out the Patreon page where I do have my MLB DFS notes up there in general, kind of breaking down whether I would consider pitchers in play, a risky play, or a straight up avoid. Some more top GPP stacks that may not be on my cheat sheet, and then some hitter versus pitcher matchups that are notable for that specific day. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to my cheat sheet and talk about those GPP teams to stack for tonight's slate overall. So we're going to start off with the Cubs going against Charlie Morton. They have hit him really well this year and last year. So both those performances have been pretty good against him. It's kind of a team-wide approach too. Cody Bellinger, Seiya Suzuki, Nico Horner, Dansby Swanson, and Mike Tauchman. So all of those hitters have hit him pretty well in the past. I got the Orioles today going against Lance Lynn. Not a long list of history there for their younger hitters, obviously, but Jorge Mateo's hit him pretty well in the past. Cedric Mullins does have some pretty good history versus Lance Lynn. He hasn't hit very well this year, but if you want to take that chance on some upside, he's only $2,700. You could definitely do that. And then the Astros have hit Griffin Canning extremely well in the past. Yainer Diaz, Alex Bregman, Kyle Tucker, Yordan Alvarez, probably forgetting somebody else, but they've hit him really, really well in the past. And then last but not least, we had the Dodgers going against Brandon Pfaadt. And he only made 2 starts versus them last season, but they did him pretty well in those 2 starts. Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Kiki Hernandez are going to be the top of the list for the Dodgers players to stack tonight overall. But with that being said, that's pretty much what I do have in terms of the recap, the weather report, the core picks, and the top GPP teams to stack for tonight's slate overall. As always, if you have any questions related to MLB DFS, be sure to leave them down in the comments below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And then, as always, if there's any other major updates throughout the day, weather, starting pitcher changes, anything else like that, I will be leaving that down in the comments, as well as the starting lineups as they do get announced throughout the afternoon and early evening. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking it out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, in terms of MLB DFS, have the core pick videos coming out Monday through Friday. And then also have my UFL DFS video coming out once a week that typically goes up on Friday. If you're interested in any more information related to MLB DFS or UFL DFS, once again, be sure to check out the Patreon page at patreon.com/CoachCraigSports. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for Prize Picks, Parlay Play, and BetUS. If you're a brand new user to any one of those three sites, when you sign up, you make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's a 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's a 125% match up to $2,500. So some pretty good opportunities to be had out there. And then with that being said, if you have any additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comments or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS tonight.